am here today with Olin Hubert. Olin is a former director and recently, last summer, became a Grand Life Master. And we took a car from the airport in Providence where he won his first NABC event before that happened. And I really decided that I wanted to interview you, Olin, after you told the story of the Gasper coup, which is something that is in Bridge in the Menagerie, which I was reading on the airplane. And then it was me, you, and Jerry Helms at the luggage, got our bags, and then you recounted the story of the Gasper coup, which had me in tears when I was reading it on the plane. So you've got a great mind for details. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, Victor Malo deserves the credit for that, but I've always remembered that exactly, many of his exact words in that particular chapter.
How many times do you think you've read it?
Oh, I haven't read it in many years. I mean, I read it in my early 20s. There's not that many of those hands
And
that
you
I
just
could...
remembered it just because it was...
Well, that one particular, yeah. The Gasper, where the hideous hog made the grand slam, made 7 diamonds on the 3-2 fit. That was, one of the most famous hands from the original Bridge in the Menagerie book. When I was young, I was like 21 years old. I mean, we read a lot of Bridge Worlds, and of course, this was we had the book, and we talked and joked about the Bridge in the Menagerie. I read both of the Bridge in the Menagerie, and the second book was The Hog in the Fourth Dimension. And I don't remember the exact words. The one I remember from the second one was where the hog disposed of one of his cards by putting it in a sandwich and eating it. And then it was called the 12-card coup. He got to the last trick, and he didn't have a card, which would have been a loser. So the lead then passed to the left, which meant that the defense had to give the dummy the last trick, as the dummy had a winner. That was the 12-card coup. But they were so funny. Those, especially the early Malo books. But yeah, the Gasper coup, just the idea of the hog making 7 diamonds on the 3-2 fit.
And can you explain for those who aren't as familiar with it what exactly happened in the Gasper coup? Like, can you set the stage?
Because it's only really the last line that I remember the words, but the idea was to make 13 tricks on the 3-2 fit. He had to be able to cash 3 club tricks. I mean, he had to be able to cash 8 tricks in all. But he had to cash 3 club tricks with ace, queen, fourth, and the dummy, and 4 to the king in his hand.
Yeah.
So obviously one of the opponents is going to have a double. So he decided if he led low to the queen and then cashed the ace and then led back a low one, his right-hand opponent, if they had the trump, would think he was going to ruff, so they would discard. But the problem playing at the Griffins was if he knew that if he led a club to the queen, that his left-hand opponent would reach for the trick and give away the location of the kings. So he led a club to the queen, simultaneously offering his left-hand opponent a cigarette, knowing full well that he did not smoke. Now, that's the part, the exact words I remember was knowing full well that he did not smoke. So he cashed his 3 club tricks, then crossed rough for 13 to make 7 diamonds on the 3-2 fit.
What were the trumps that he had in diamonds? Do you remember?
Well, he had he had the top 5, so he could cross rough high. Once he got there, he could cross rough high.
For the duplicate players out there who haven't played a lot of like kitchen table or rubber bridge, there's something like how does it work in rubber bridge? What's the protocol? You like whoever's taking the tricks takes them for both sides. Is that?
No, you play it. All cards are just played in the middle.
Right.
This is what non-duplicate players know as bridge.
Right.
No, you just play your cards in the middle, and whoever wins the trick takes the trick.
But the thinking was that person was going to his partner when he played the queen, not having the king, they were going to reach for the trick to take it, expecting their
right.
Yeah. Right.
Right, expecting their partner to win
Right.
the king. Of course, this was the Griffins. It was not quite a real rubber bridge club, but it was a lot like it. That was what my first job in bridge was, running a rubber bridge club, owning and running a rubber bridge club. And like the Griffins, many of the players had animal nicknames. Foxy Hall still plays today. The bird, the squirrel, that kind of thing. So that much is true to life, although not quite true to life.
Now, where was this rubber bridge club?
Atlanta.
And you took it over for somebody, or you started it from scratch?
I bought it from somebody. Yeah.
And how old were you when you did that?
Well, let's see. I guess I was 23, maybe.
And like rubber bridge clubs, I've read on Bridge Winners, I think, that rubber bridge clubs there used to be rubber bridge clubs all around the country, and that's like sort of the first level of the game that's died out. Would you say that's?
Yeah, there used to be quite a few. Most of them have gone away. Larry Coker had one in St. Louis. He's dead now. Ron Vonderpoorten had one in San Francisco. I played at Bobby Nail's club in Houston. That was there for many years, a very popular club. And then, of course, they had 3 or 4 different in New York. Cavendish Club was originally a rubber bridge club, and the Mayfair.
And
those are pretty much gone away.
Was that a good business?
No, it was not. It was. You had to worry about your friends stabbing you in the back and not paying their bills, and there was no way to go. There was nowhere to really expand. Although we did have a good business, because the time I had it was when backgammon was really coming into vogue.
Yeah.
And so we had quite a few. We had a daily chouette of backgammon. So.
And how much?
Also, they played a lot of gin rummy at my club.
How much would you take from the back? How much would you take from the backgammon or the bridge or whatever? Like, how did that work?
Well, it's straight fees, not a percentage, but a straight fees, and it was ridiculously small on those. I mean, compared to now, I think it was like $3.50, $4 for a session.
And did you play in the rubber
bridge
game?
I played it when I was needed to fill in the game.
Mm. For full stakes or for like partial?
No, I played. It was not a big, even though it was a penny a point, which is nothing today. It was something, but it wasn't high stakes. Sometimes it would get up to 2 cents a point. But in fact, before I started playing rubber bridge full time before I bought the club, so I was already an experienced player, rubber bridge.
And you were
player.
playing at the club that you bought?
Yeah.
So you live in Atlanta now. Is that where you're from?
Yeah. Atlanta all my life.
How did you start learning to play bridge?
Well, my parents, mostly my father, taught us, although my parents were not bridge players. He had played some, I guess, at the Elks Club, but they knew how to play. But then I played one summer at an academic program I was at in Macon, Georgia, for the summer, and found a partner there, and we played. But we were maybe the best of the lot, but we still knew almost nothing about the play of the cards or anything. I had read the one beginning Gorin book that we had at home, and about all I knew about the play of the hand was count your winners and no trump and your losers in a suit contract. But when I started school at the University of Georgia, my brother already playing a lot, and So I got in. We had a rubber bridge game, a daily rubber bridge game in the snack bar there at the student center. And we had, probably a dozen players who really became good players, which is very rare for a college bridge at all. It sort of grows up that way in pockets, like I'm sure it's true all over the country. The Carolina, Duke and North Carolina area had a number of players who are still very fine players today. But people all sort of learn together.
Yeah.
But yeah, our game would start maybe 1 in the afternoon and go till 7 at night or so, and you could tell the people who weren't serious about their bridge because they would cut out and go to class. But I was not in that group.
Did you end up graduating from Georgia?
Well, yeah, 15 years later.
Did y'all play other schools, like in intercollegiate type stuff back then?
I played twice in the National Intercollegiate Finals with some players who are still well-known players today. I mean, not against them.
Yeah.
Mark Feldman was in there one year. I played against Jeff Hand 2 years. He and his partner from the University of Maryland, Paul DePort, who became a good player, but he's been living in Amsterdam for many years. But he's one of the funniest people I've ever known. And Les Bart was there one year when I was.
What makes him so funny? This fellow from lives in the Netherlands.
Well, he's the author of DePort's Law.
Yeah.
Which is, the more stoned you are, the more stoned your opponents will play.
Have you experienced that to be true?
Oh, quite. Yes, I've verified that on many occasions.
I remember when you hung up the spikes as being a director. I remember reading about it. I guess it was maybe in an NABC bulletin, but it said you wanted to play more. Is my memory serving me there?
Yeah, I guess so. But let me correct one thing. Tournament director, I wasn't just a director.
Okay.
The tournament directors don't like to be referred to simply as directors. There's a big difference between a director and a tournament director.
Ah, see, that's the kind of stuff that I want to know about. What is a tournament director then?
Well, anybody who gets certified can direct a club game.
Yeah.
But you have to show that you can, certain degree of competence in a lot of things to be a tournament director. When I first started, just the first few years, because I never had to do it much, but the directors kept score with pencil and paper.
Wow.
On a big, long recap sheet, about 3 feet wide, and you had to, as the scores came in from the caddies every round, you had to post them. And then when the last round came in, you had to start match pointing the boards. When you got all the boards match pointed, then you added the scores across to see what the player's scores were, and then you had to get in balance. Then you had to do that in 15 or 20 minutes.
Wow.
So that was, if you could do a sheet, you could be a tournament director in those days. Now, so I was there when they first started the computer scoring. Now that was different than it is now. There was no bridge mates. Again, the caddies still brought the tickets in every round.
Yeah.
But we entered the scores into ACBL score. Although it wasn't ACBL score to begin with, but a program.
Yeah.
But then, so that's what you had to be able to do, but there's a lot of other things involved in tournament directing. It's a lot harder to sell a session at a regional or national tournament than it is to just sell a club game, because you might have 5 or 6 different events that you're selling, not at the same place, but whoever's in charge of the tournament has to allot the space and see that everybody has the right entries and have a backup plan. If you have more or fewer tables than you're expecting, you have to Sometimes you even have to change the setup around to accommodate all that. So there's a lot involved in tournament directing.
Yes.
In addition, then you got to have people making rulings all day too.
Right. Like there was a situation, you and I were both playing in the regional in Hilton Head recently, and there was a situation I was playing in the 2-session pair game, and to your point, I really appreciated I think tournament directors can be unsung in some ways. I mean, I'm sure you can elaborate on that. But there was a situation when we were starting the pair game where I don't really know what was going on, but there was a lot of stuff happening, and they were kind of, I think, maybe getting another pair or something. I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but it seemed a lot more complicated than something that I would be like. I just appreciated that they had the ability to do that.
Yeah, in a timely fashion. Those last minute changes, like you have to add somebody to one bracket and then move teams down to other brackets. It takes a little concentration. It's not that hard, but with everything going crazy around you, you have to be able to watch what you're doing.
Like they were changing the table numbers and then moving tables and then creating like the sections because it wasn't necessarily set up where it was set up. How did you?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what was going on there.
How did you become a tournament director for the ACBL?
Well, I was after I closed my Rubber Bridge Club, I was playing professionally, but that's not really, I wasn't making any money to speak of. There just weren't nearly as many sponsors as there are today, and that's not really what I wanted anyway. I didn't mind playing with a student, but the business aspect of it, trying to drum up clients and such did not appeal to me. So I started the way you started those days. You did a backup sheet, it's called. In other words, I posted a sheet that one of the other directors at the tournament were posting, and to see how it came out. So you had to do that for a while, unpaid, and then I became a trainee, I guess, and just moved. It took quite a while. I mean, I had very few assignments, maybe for the first 10 years or so, although I was still playing. I was still playing professionally at the same time, making a little that way, etc. So mainly I did it to make a living. But I always preferred playing. I'd always rather play than work anytime.
What year are we talking about when we're still doing these by hand, these calculations by hand?
Oh, late 70s.
And what happened?
End of the 80s. End of the 80s, 82 or 3.
What happened? I guess. What happened when it wasn't in balance? Like, was that a nightmare?
Well, yeah. You had to find it, or else somebody had to come and find it for you. But you had to be able to do it, or you weren't going to be working there.
Yeah. Do you miss that aspect of it?
Oh no, I mean, well, kind of. There's looking back on it. Yes, at the time, no, I wouldn't have. It was stressful. Of course, directing is stressful enough as it is.
What was the tournament scene like back then?
Well, for one thing, the largest day of the tournament was always Saturday. I'm talking a regional.
Yeah.
And the regionals weren't even 7 days long at the first, but then they became 7 days long. But the largest day would be Saturday, and the second largest day would be Sunday. And now they're the two smallest days of the tournament. The open pairs on Saturday would usually be qualifying session in the afternoon, and then the finals at night, and then there was a consolation event for the people who did not qualify, and then played on a 25 top in the finals. They would qualify 2 sections and score across 2 sections, qualify on a 25 top, which is nothing today with computers, but that was a hard work to do a sheet on a 25 top. It was usually 2 directors would do it together. I never did work on a 25 top myself because I didn't I didn't work that many years or that many tournaments where we were doing manual scoring.
Mm.
But and of course then they had midnight games for a while. Those well, they still have a few, but those were kind of basically drunk games, and those were not a lot of fun to work for most directors.
What was the attendance like in tournaments back in those days? I mean, like in terms, like
Well,
we were in Hilton Head. I was there the year before. I don't remember if you were there or not, but there was I felt like there was a lot more people. It seemed like there was a fair amount more people at the tournament this year than last year, for example.
I think so, but still, it's only about half of the size it was before COVID.
Wow.
They weren't that big. I mean, when I started, District 7, where I live, is Georgia, Carolinas, and Eastern Tennessee. That and District 6, which is Washington, D.C., and Virginia and Maryland, they went together. They had gone together and formed the Mid-Atlantic Conference. And they really ran the most successful regionals in the country. And they just kept getting better and better and bigger and bigger. Gatlinburg being an example. I'm sure, I mean, I played in it for quite a few years before I ever directed there, and before they even had the big convention center where they have it now. But even after I started playing, I remember it was 3,600 tables one year,
Wow.
which I'm sure was the largest in the country that year. The next year, it was up 25% to 4,500, that's ridiculous. You know, a 25% increase in a tournament is huge, but for 3,600 table tournament to go up in 25% in one year, it's ridiculous. And it just kept going up from there till where it hit about 10,000 tables.
Wow.
Before it started receding a little. But it got to be, for a few years, Las Vegas and Gatlinburg would go back and forth being the largest regional of the tournament of the country. That was probably when they were about at the 5,000 level. And then Gatlinburg took off from there. But I always thought it was odd that there's probably no two cities that have tournaments that are less alike than Las Vegas and Gatlinburg. But they had the two biggest. But then since then, Gatlinburg has been the biggest in the country every year, and almost always at least twice as big as the second largest. But Hilton Head was a real big one before the COVID. It was up to 4,000 tables, which is gigantic. That would normally, often be the second largest in the country.
So were they using more hotel space then back in those days? Because it seemed like the rooms that we were using were pretty full at this last tournament.
Yeah, well, I think that's one reason why Gatlinburg got so big was all the cheap hotels, because you could go up to Pigeon Forge and get a room actually for $15 or $20. You could get a hotel room. And in those days, you could drive from Pigeon Forge to Gatlinburg in about 5 minutes. Now it takes a half an hour at least, I'm sure, but there wasn't the amount of traffic there is now. But there's, I'm sure there's places in Gatlinburg to stay that you can always find. I don't think they take up all the hotel rooms, maybe the ones right near the tournament, but there's a lot of little hotels there in Gatlinburg.
So you retired.
Plus,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, when I was a player, we would several times we would rent a chalet up on the mountain and have 10 or 12 people stay together and just go back and forth. So I think there was free parking back then, but even if there wasn't, it was a full car load. It wouldn't be a big deal. But we had some great times that way. That was a great way to go to a tournament.
So you retired from directing in 2014. What how much do you play now?
Well, I've been playing all the nationals. I can't afford not to play in the nationals because as a retired 20-year tournament director, my entry fees are all free. And and I prefer to play in the national events when I'm able.
Sure.
So you can imagine how much that is. Those entry fees have really gotten up there. So I play in the 3 nationals, and Pretty much the District 7 regionals. I used to play in the Vegas every year, but kind of gotten out of that habit. I did go. Did play in Daytona Beach the last couple of times they had tournaments, including this year where they had to cancel the tournament after 2 days because of the hurricane. But I went down there to play with my good friend Spike Lay, who just passed away about 2 weeks ago too. So that was the last time I saw him. I went down there to stay with. I would stay at his place, and we did play the first 2 days of the Daytona Beach Regional. But I don't travel. But so that's maybe I play maybe a half a dozen regionals a year, and then I play at the club a couple of times a week, and then I've got some private matches that I play online a couple of nights a week.
You enjoying bridge more now that you're not a tournament director?
Well, yeah, I mean you can't play seriously, I mean I didn't play in a single national event for 25 years, I guess. I mean, and I would play at most one regional. I would try to go to the Vegas regional because I usually wasn't working that week. So you can't be very serious. I try not to be overly serious, but I mean I consider myself a serious player,
Yeah.
but you can't do that and be a tournament director.
So
Even Jenny Carmichael, my good buddy Jenny Carmichael, who worked with me quite a bit before they left Atlanta. She's still a serious player, but she doesn't get to play many tournaments, but she does have her own national championship.
how does your skill how do you keep your skill there when you're not playing but you're working in the game?
Well, I don't know, because see, I would still play local duplicates.
Yeah.
So it's not the skill, but it's more the concentration that after not playing really competitively for 25 years, I sometimes fail to focus. I still know how to make all the plays, and and of course since I started back, I've made a lot of changes in bidding. I just basically play what my partners play, but I mean, that's a lot more than we played, before I became a director. A lot of bidding advances since I quit playing.
Let's talk about the winning the GNTs. You won the Grand National Teams Open to Flight last summer to get your Grand Life Master. I think basically you won it on the last board, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was even going to the last board. And when the bidding went a diamond pass, a no trump all pass, I made the comment, not with a bang, but a whimper. Because it was just a little one no trump contract, and it turned out that was the decider in the whole match.
What was the score? So were you playing? You were playing then?
I was playing, yeah.
And what was the score going into the last quarter?
I don't know the imp score. It was tied. Oh, going into the last quarter, we were down 22 imps.
Oh. And so you felt like you had a chance based on the results at your table?
I didn't know. I thought we were unlikely to have won.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a perfect set. We had a couple of good boards, which turned out to be, pretty big swings. But I was not feeling terribly optimistic. I mean, I didn't feel like, we couldn't win, but I mean, I just thought we were the underdog.
So you managed to set one no trump?
Right.
By one trick?
Yeah.
So I actually watched the play on the video at the other table, which is available on YouTube. We'll put that in the show notes.
If it is, it's not. I don't know if it's accurate. I mean, I guess it's accurate on YouTube, but they had some problem on ViewGraph at the other table, and you couldn't. I haven't seen it where you could actually tell the plays because there was some mistaken entry there, and it's hard to tell exactly how the play of the last few tricks went.
Well, it's possible that our listeners are going to hate me for this because I know the layout. But what was the defense What were you on lead, or was your partner on lead?
Now my partner was on lead. The key was play a trick one. He led a heart from the Jack 9-8 deuce or something.
Yeah.
Turns out the 9 would have been the killing lead, but that's not a normal
Yeah.
lead. But he led low. He led low. Gary Kohler was the declarer. He was looking at the King 10 small in the dummy and 3 to the 7 in his hand.
Okay.
I had the ace queen small, but I didn't. My small one could not beat the 7.
Okay.
Now he made the technically correct play, I believe, of putting in the 10. It turns out, since my partner had led away from the 9 and the 8, if he had ducked it around to his 7,
Right.
that would have forced my queen. He would have made the hand. But when he put in the 10, I won the queen and shifted to a spade into the dummy's ace jack doubleton. But partner had the king queen, and so he was able, when they set up their trick, he was able to now come through the heart again. And even though Declare ducked it and won the third heart, I was still able to get to partner with the spade for the setting trick.
Mm. And that's the name of this podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
So, as you said at the time, out with a whimper, what was it like coming out of the room, finding out that you won?
Well, when I got up from the table, the viewgraph operator, Marie France, told us that, well, you were tied going to the last board, but you won it on the last board. So, but then so that's how I found out. But then we got out of the room and everybody, of course, I already knew. And that was a lot of fun. What can I say?
How many master points did you have? So you went from being a platinum to a Grand Life Master?
Yeah.
How many master points did you have when you won?
14,000 and something. I don't know.
Mm.
I'm not over 15,000 yet, but I don't have too far to go. But I already had 14,000 and something. Because I think I had about 8,000 points when I started as a full-time tournament director.
Yeah.
And, probably about 9,000 when I retired. But then that was almost 9 years ago now. So of course, those 8,000, it was a lot harder to win those 8,000 than it is to win 8,000 now. I mean, they just weren't there.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you were playing with Wayne Stewart on that team?
Right. Right. Well, the way I got there, Wayne's team, Wayne was playing with the same team, but with John Rice from North Carolina. And they actually beat my team in the district finals. But then John had to drop out, and Wayne, I had been playing some with Wayne. We had done very well at regionals, so he asked me to join the team. So I did, and we won.
And they were 6-handed when they played in the qualifying?
Yeah.
Man, that's sweet.
Yeah, we thought so.
So were you playing against Mextroth then in the final set?
Yeah, Mextroth Mextroth was the dummy on the final hand and won no trump.
Did he offer any commentary as the play was taking place?
No.
That's pretty sweet to beat Mextroth for your first national title.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, I've beat him. I've had my share of wins in regionals against him, but of course, anybody's share is very small.
Yeah.
So I beat him a few times in regional, but yes, to win, and plus, 60 board matches every day. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
We have Mextroth on our poster for Double Dummy. I don't know if you know, I made a documentary movie about the American junior team playing in the...
Yes, I haven't seen it yet, but...
I will send you a link where you can watch it. It's on PBS, but it's available on PBS.org.
Yeah, I looked for it. Actually, it wasn't on TV here anywhere that I could find, and...
We're hoping it will be it will be broadcast. I'm not sure if we've got an agreement with Atlanta, but we've got a company that basically their job is to go out to the different stations across the country and, get them to play it. And we've had some success with that. I think about 40% of stations have carried it so far. So that's good. And it is freely available on pbs.org. So I'll send you that link. And now I forget why I was telling you that. Shoot. Yeah. Can't remember.
No, I hear it's really good. I would enjoy watching it.
Why was I telling you that? So back to directing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get assigned as a tournament director? How do you get assigned? How does it work like with tournaments? I think Kevin Perkins was the director in charge of Hilton Head each of the last 2 years. Like, does the tournament, once you establish a relationship with the tournament, then they're kind of keen to invite you? And is it the regional organizers that are doing that, or how's it work?
No, well, assuming it's done the same way now as when I was working. No, the assignments are made out of Memphis or out of Horn Lake. There's the tournament can request you, but that doesn't necessarily mean they request a DIC. And usually it's you get to. I mean, there's so many changes now, but when I was working, it would usually be the same director. DIC is director in charge every year, and then once they have assigned a DIC, he makes requests from the league of which directors he would like and in which sessions, and of course, sometimes there's a conflict between two different tournaments, so that has to be straightened out in Memphis. But the league then assigns the tournaments, the directors to the tournaments.
So if you're living in Atlanta, are you mostly like in the Southeast doing tournaments, or are they flying you all across the country to do tournaments?
Yeah, mostly in the Southeast. Sometimes probably more so now than when I was working. They would. You might be working a long ways from home, but usually, yes, they try to keep a lid on the transportation expenses.
Yeah.
That was the main thing. So that's why, and I would not be working at the week of the Las Vegas regional, which was always in June in those days, and I didn't ever have a conflict. So that's how I was able to go play in that one regional almost all years. And also having people from the same area, I mean, they get to know each other and work together all the time.
Right.
So there's like a half a dozen other directors that I would be working with at almost any Mid-Atlantic tournament when I was there. And so you get to be real good friends. And, of course, the working relationship, there's not just one way to do tournaments. It's up to the directors to know the way the DIC likes them done and to do it that way. But working together with the same people all the time, it really helps your performance.
Got it. There was a funny story. I was reading some of your Bridge Winners comments, and you said one time you got called to the table and the person who was supposed to be the dummy on the hand
that's probably my funniest ruling story. The putative dummy had made the opening lead out of turn. And then the next player put their hand down as the dummy. And that player's partner said, "What's my contract? I never bid." So that one usually gets a laugh, but that's honest truth.
How did you adjudicate that?
Well, I think we just ruled it as an unplayable hand.
Okay. So you get like an average minus for the like I guess
Something
both sides probably got average minus, I guess, because one person paid the opening lead and another person table. Oh my god. I didn't realize that was even a I mean, it makes sense. It's an unplayable hand, but I didn't realize that was a possibility.
Well, I suppose you could rule that one hand is 13 penalty cards, but that's not the way that we were told to do it in those days.
13 penalty cards. Wow. Wow. So would you get quizzed on the rules, or like by the league? How did you keep up to date with
Well, we had a forum, an online forum, where people would, we would discuss different types of rulings and that kind of, and other things having to do with directing. But and also wasn't so much rulings, but we had a new chief tournament director who arranged to have three groups of full-time directors, each brought to Memphis, where the league was in those days, and we had I guess you could call it continuing education, but it was a lot of it was self-help people and things like that, seminars they call them, but most of the directors kind of mocked at those people. They you know But we had some very good discussions of the tournaments of the directors themselves. So there was a lot of value, and we got to know some better people that we didn't get a chance to work with all the time. But I thought that was a real good idea.
the continuing education?
Well, yeah, I mean, just to have, like I say, they had those three groups. I don't think they ever went forward with it after that. But yeah, that I think it was just 3 or 4 days that we went to Memphis for. But
So how are you enjoying playing more? You retired to play more. How are you enjoying that?
well, I mean, I retired because I didn't want to work anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that's what I was going to do when I retired. Oh, I enjoy playing. I've got one of my Emory Whitaker, who's a good friend of mine and one of my regular partners, but he was working on his PhD in math at Georgia when I was an undergraduate. We would play in a number of sectionals together because you can go a lot of places from Athens, Georgia. Besides in Georgia, Augusta, Macon, and Lowndes, but you got Greenville and Spartanburg and Columbia, and they had tournaments in Clemson then. So we played quite a few sectionals, and then we remained good friends over the years, but we didn't play again for probably 30 years. Then when I retired, he was the first one to ask me to play, I believe, at least in the Nationals. We played in the Nationals fast pairs. We actually were leading the event after one session and second after two. We ended up sixth. That was the year the Grosacks just ran away with it and had a huge second day of the tournament and won. But we ended up sixth, which I didn't think was too bad for my first Nationals in 30 years.
Yeah.
Or 25 years, maybe.
Yeah. 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 I was happy when the Grosacks won that. They're sort of they're the unexpected gift of double dummy. I went there to that tournament really focused on Adam Kaplan, who, I mean, has had an excellent career, but I mean, the Grosacks have really taken off since 2012 when we filmed them for that.
Yep, for sure. Zach was the player of the year this year.
I know. I've been in a lot of emails that I've been addressing to fellow bridge stakeholders. That has been one of my primary points. What's your favorite thing about bridge?
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly how to answer that. I mean, I think of it almost as a detective story. Not only do you have to draw inferences, but you have to look for clues. Look to clues about the distribution and and the high cards from both the bidding and the play. I actually enjoy defense. Most people say that's their least favorite aspect of it. I really enjoy defense as much as anything. But yeah, as a declarer, I really do. Like I say, trying to find out what's going on and then interpreting what's going on and having the techniques to deal with it. The seeing the opening lead when you're playing a hand and sometimes you have to think about what's going to happen at trick 11 or 12, and you have to start planning it right then. That's one of my favorite hands. It was just like that, and from Rubber Bridge too, when I was still a very young player. You don't want a whole hand, do you?
Try me.
Okay, well, my hand, I mean, it's really a fairly simple play, but it's very hard to see.
Okay.
My hand was king third, ace queen jack fifth, three small, and king doubleton.
Okay.
And I opened a heart, and they bid two clubs on my left. Everybody was vulnerable. Partner bid three hearts, which in those days still showed a good hand.
Okay.
So I bid four hearts. And the dummy, they led the ace of diamonds. The dummy had the ace queen jack fourth of diamonds opposite my king third. 10-9 fourth of hearts opposite my ace queen jack fifth. King third of diamonds opposite my three little. And the jack doubled on the clubs opposite my king doubled. Two club overcaller was on my left. So the ace of diamonds and right hand opponent played the queen. It continued a diamond. I won the king and the dummy. I took a heart finesse, losing to the king, and he got out with a spade, obviously having no more diamonds. So I had read the book. It was then called Master Play by Terrence Reese. It's now been repackaged with other books. I don't know what the title is now, but there was a chapter called The Vice, the Winkle, and the Stepping Stone.
Yeah.
3 one-loser type squeezes.
Yeah.
And I had read it, but I certainly had not mastered it, and I couldn't have told you what a vice was, it turns out. But the reason I thought this was so instructive is that if you plan the play ahead, if you play it out mentally, there's really only 4 things you can do after you draw trumps. You can run your hearts first and pitch a diamond from the dummy and then run the spades, in which case you end up with jack double and clubs in the dummy, and right-hand opponent can throw their diamond away. By the way, you can't make the hand if the ace queen of clubs are both offside. You have to hope that there's a way to play for the queen on your right. If not, then I would have just led a club to the king, just hoping, against hope that the ace was onside. But if you play your hearts first and throw a club from dummy, now when you play the hearts, the spades, you end up with a stiff diamond and a stiff jack of clubs in the dummy, and right-hand opponent can hold on to his diamond and just blank his queen of clubs. If, after drawing trumps, you play spades first and throw a diamond from your hand, now when you run your heart, you're in your hand with king double and the clubs, and no diamond threat, so right-hand opponent can just throw his diamond away and hold on to queen double and the clubs. You have to lead away from the king. But, and this was the last one I came to, seems like the least intuitive, if you run the spades first and blank your king of clubs, now when you run the hearts, you can throw a diamond from dummy. So now you're in your hand with a diamond and the stiff king of clubs, and the dummy is down to jack and 1 club. And right-hand opponent has to either throw his diamond away or blank his queen of clubs, and now I smothered it with my stiff king. So, like I say, it's really a very simple play, but seeing it is the hard part.
Wow.
But it was unusual, I thought, in that I wasn't looking for a certain end position, because I didn't know, if I had been more experienced, if I had really mastered the vice, I would have known what to look for, but I didn't know what I was looking. Usually you're looking to get to a certain end position and try to play it that way. This one, like I said, there was only really four lines of play, and when I got to that last one, I saw, hey, that would work. Of course, I was sure I was going to lay down the king of clubs, and left-hand opponent was going to just take the last 2 tricks with his ace queen, but no, the right-hand opponent actually had the queen of clubs.
Wow.
So that's one of my most fun hands.
When was that?
It was before 1975. I was playing River Ridge at the club.
Yeah, that's a good one. What is the tech? It's called a vice squeeze?
A vice, yeah.
I think that's the Mextroth when he first played with Rodwell. I think the story is that that Rodwell did a vice squeeze.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, the chapters, he calls it the vice, calls that squeeze mother. The Winkle squeeze block suit. That's where you have to squeeze the opponents down into blocking a suit and then give them a trick. And then the stepping stone, I forget his. That's maybe a squeeze overtake. I'm not sure, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they're all. I was going to say the vice and the stepping stone are not that complicated. The Winkle is really, really tough one. And I'm sure I couldn't do one today without really thinking a long, long time.
That's a good one. That's a good hand story. I hope that'll work for our listeners because I want to keep that in there. I've heard before that that hands can be tough, but I think you did a good job of talking through it. Yeah,
if they would write the hand and then look at as I go through it, it's easy to see.
Yeah, definitely. So you're playing in New Orleans from the sound of it. What's your schedule there?
I'm playing with Kevin Collins in the Platinum pair. He's one of my regular partners from here in Atlanta. He's a very good player. He's Patty Tucker's husband.
Yeah.
Sure, most of you people know who Patty Tucker is, but I always try to play in so far I've been able to find somebody to play in the Platinum. A lot of people don't, they'd rather play in the silver ribbon or whatever it is, but I'm not, I want to play in the top one if I can.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about Spike the last time we played, we did make it to the third day of the Platinum. That's, an achievement in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
So then I think I'm playing with Kevin and Patty, I believe, in another pair in the Vanderbilt. And I'm playing Hugh Brown from South Carolina in the what is it, the pair game, whatever the pair game is, and then we're playing with Kevin and Patty and another pair, I believe, in the Swiss at the end.
And you and Kevin came second in the Life Master pairs.
The Nail and Life Master Open pairs. It was the 4 session, not the Life Master pairs, but the Bobby Nail. Yeah, we were second by about 2.5 match points, and then Kevin and Patty won the North American pairs one year.
Match points for me are. When you say that, it does. I mean, I know what it means, but I feel like I've grown up playing on bridge mates, and so it's always been like a percentage. I've never
nobody
really
knows anything but percents anymore. See, when I played, as long as you had a big enough field, 156 was average. That's on a 12 top. I mean, even in a club game, if you had a good sized club game, 13 tables or more. So 156 was average, and a 200 game, that was the mark of you had a really good game if you had a 200 or more game. But we knew, there weren't that many different averages. If you played on an 8 top, it would be 108 average, or like I was talking about in the tournaments, 25 top across 2 sections, that's a 325 average. But we didn't think in percentages so much those days. I mean, if you had a really big game, you would figure out if you had a 70% game or whatever.
Right.
It was, But
wow, that's amazing that was it. Yeah, that's amazing that it was that way.
Well, they couldn't score across 5 or 6 sections like they can now. So I mean, now nobody would know what the raw match point score meant now. If you're playing on a 2189 average,
So wait, you're saying
so it's just percentages.
In the Nationals, for example, before they had computers, when you had like the 3-day Life Master pairs, would you only then your scores would only count for like 2 sections? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, I believe they would just match point them across two sections. I don't know if they ever did any more than that. I didn't. I really wasn't working in national events. Well, I did work in one border match event. That's not too hard. It's either a one tie, it's a one tie, a 1.5, or a 0. So, but
Mm.
so I never worked on one of those big tops at the nationals. I think 25 was the main, you know, the main thing.
But you became a national tournament director eventually.
Well, associate national. It's not actually a full national tournament director, but associate nationals means you can run a regional tournament. So I was director in charge of quite a few regional tournaments, and then my job at the nationals. I think both of these jobs came from being probably the best player among the tournament directors at that time. I started out, I did national appeals every time for probably 10 years, where you have to look at the appeals, present them to the committees, and, even make changes in the ruling if so need be. And then the last 5 or 6 years, I was in charge of the Vanderbilt and the Spingo. Was my job.
Mm.
So that's interesting because, I mean, most of the tournament directors don't really care about who those foreign players are, but I got to know. I mean, I don't know that not bosom buddies, but I got to know all the top foreign players from directing those events. So I found it very interesting.
What's it?
They have a name for working the Vanderbilt and the Spingo called, the directors refer to it as watching the paint dry. Because you sit there for hours and hours, you don't take any director calls, but then you just still have to be there forever. And of course, once you do take a director call, you're liable to end up in a committee. But very little fast action in those events.
Because it's people are more experienced, or because it's teams? Why is that?
Yeah. Or well, there's not a whole lot of revokes and things, and the two main things are unauthorized information or misinformation revokes. But still, they they know they certainly don't all know their agreements, but they know them better than just random players, and they know what their obligations are as far as explaining. They know better than the average player anyway. But,
okay, I have a question for you. Your agreement with your partner is that you lead second, fourth against no trump. So kind of an attitude lead. So second, you would not have. You would tend not to have an honor, and you would not have an honor in the suit most likely. So
right,
we're defending against 3-no, and my partner makes the opening lead of, I think it was the 3 of hearts, and dummy's hearts are king, queen, 9, 4th, and declare has ace 3rd, and I have jack 10 doubleton.
You're behind the dummy?
Yeah, I'm behind the dummy.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think he has the king, queen, 8-7. Did I say that? Right, king, queen, 9, king, queen, 9-8.
I thought you said king, queen, 9. Yeah.
King, queen, 9-8. So he plays the 8, and I play the 10, and he says, "What is your agreement?" Well, here's what happened. I was worried that he was going to play another heart, and she was going to play low, and it was going to be a legitimate second and fourth lead.
Well, now you said your partner led the 3.
Yeah.
Well, did you lead second best from 3 small?
Yeah, I think. I'm not.
Because most people who play that play, well, I don't know. I don't know because I don't usually play that. But I would just tell them what your agreement is. I'd say we lead low from an honor and second, second highest from a weak suit.
So you think from 3 legitimate small, you just lead high?
Well, I don't know because I don't know what people's agreements are.
Right.
That's sort of what I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, now he finessed into me, and
So what did you tell? What was your explanation?
well, I didn't think about the fact that her highest card wasn't really that high, and that maybe she could have
Yeah.
just led that card. So I said our agreement is second fourth.
Okay. Well, I think that's your agreement.
But I kind of volunteered it because I was worried that she was going to play low, and now he was going to. I didn't want. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's your mistake in volunteering it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not because you don't want Declare to know, but because you might your volunteered explanation might fool Declare more than if you didn't say anything. Declare's free to ask what it is, and then you can say second and fourth. But
yeah, I think you're right. I agree with you.
sort of like if partner led an ace, and you were asked the agreement, you would say we play ace from ace king. But if you're looking at the king, and Declare doesn't say anything, and you say we play ace from ace king, now that would be looked at askance.
Right. Right.
If they asked, that would still be the correct explanation, ace from ace king, even though you know that your partner doesn't have the ace king.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to apologize to this fellow. He was nice about it, but I didn't feel like it was completely settled. When I talked to him about it after, but it didn't, like, as evidenced by the fact that I'm bringing it up here and having the feelings that I'm having about it here. It did not feel settled. Can you give me a story, like a good story from a ruling, maybe a difficult situation?
Well, I can tell you the one that I hate the worst that the National Appeals Committee did, that I thought was, that they completely messed it up.
Okay.
But, of course, the people on the winning team, it decided. No, it was from the Reisinger. It decided the Reisinger.
Wow.
It was between, and well, I'll try to do it without mentioning the opponents' names. It was Norberto Bocchi from Italy was the declare.
Yeah.
He was in 3-no trump, and the lead was a small heart, and he had stiff king in the dummy and the queen doubled in his hand. He played the king and it won. Now, well, the opponents got in and they led, and the left-hand opponent from original Jack fourth decided that they would clear things up for his partner if he would now lead the Jack. And then his partner, would go king. I mean, his partner would win the ace, and now it would be clear that they were good. But he had asked quite a few questions. It was a fairly simple rebid, but it wasn't. They were playing, an somewhat artificial system.
Yeah.
But the problem was he didn't know what questions his partner had asked or what information he had gotten. So his partner said that the only question he'd asked was about the declare's 2-diamond rebid, I think it was.
Yeah.
Said that it showed 5 diamonds.
Yeah.
And he didn't ask it. Now they put their whole argument on the fact that, well, he said 5 diamonds and he had 6.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean 5 or more. Although there was no question, there was no answer in writing, and no question was asked in writing. So, right-hand opponent either said that he said at least 5 diamonds, or
Right.
or rather declare. At any rate, they thought it was good. But the whole problem was, let's see, so what happened was when he led the Jack, now his partner ducked again. But the Jack was just a terrible play.
You're saying the partner of the opening leader had Jack fourth of hearts?
The opening leader had Jack fourth.
Oh, wow.
And he got in and now led the Jack.
Yeah.
And my contention is that, well, he didn't know exactly what information his partner got, but practically whatever information his partner had, he was going to play his partner for Jack third, for
Mm.
original holding of Jack third, instead of Jack fourth when he led the Jack. If all he had to do was just lead his fourth, because he,
Yeah.
left-hand opponent, the opening leader, knew every card
Yeah.
by this point.
Yeah.
All he had to do was lead his smallest heart.
Yeah.
His partner would win, would know, would win the ace, and now they would run the heart suit.
Mm.
But when he led the Jack, he thought he started with Jack third, as who wouldn't think that he started
Right.
with Jack third?
Right. Huh.
So the committee reversed that decision, which I thought was a travesty of justice, and it ended up being the deciding trick in the Rising.
Wow. Huh.
So most of my stories about rulings are not are not good ones,
Yeah.
except for Dummy's opening lead out of turn.
Right. Right. Did you and Wayne, totally switching gears, did you feel like you played well when you won the GNT, like throughout the,
Yeah, I thought we did. I had a couple of senior moments, but outside of that, I thought we played very well.
Yeah.
For some reason, we had become very adept at bidding grand slams. I mean, we had done that in some regionals that we played in. We had a lot of luck with grand slams, getting to grand slams. But yeah, I thought we played very well.
Mm. Any Jenny Carmichael stories you wanna share?
It's been so long, I can't really remember. I mean, she is one of my favorite players and directors.
Mm.
I do love Jenny,
Mm.
but I can't really come up with a story.
When was the last time you played?
Oh, well, I don't remember how long it was.
No,
when,
not with Jenny. No, just bridge.
Oh, when the last time I've played
Yeah.
was? What's today? Wednesday. Last night, played in a private match. We have some almost all District 7 players that we have 4 pairs that we play on Tuesday nights. But on Thursday nights, I have my team with Emery Whitaker and Jerry Helms and Sam Marks. We play against a team from California, including our good friend Bob Etter.
Okay, I know Bob.
Bob lived in Atlanta, and he and his wife and I played a lot of local dupes because he was a professional place kicker he kicked some for he actually originally kicked for University of Georgia, and then he kicked for the Atlanta Falcons and the Memphis team of the World Football League. Now he's been out in Sacramento for many years now, but he and Emery have kept up with each other because they're both avid video poker players. So they would meet in Las Vegas and play video poker, and then Spike and I started playing on teams with them in that tournament. So the 4 of us would meet and for the Las Vegas regional for quite several years there. So that's our Tuesday night. We have a 4 pairs that where we play 3 matches.
How many boards do you play?
The Monday night is usually 3 8-board matches. Although somebody had to be late this last time, so we did only 3 7-board matches. On Thursday night we play 16 boards.
What's your handle on Bridge Base?
Oh, Hubert.
Oh, Hubert. What questions should I have asked you that I haven't asked you?
Oh, I don't know. I think we've covered a lot.
Are you better than Kalita? You know about the...
Oh, much better. Much better than
much better than Kalita. And how about Cliff Dunn? You know Cliff Dunn or his son Josh?
I don't know Cliff. I know Josh.
You got a Josh Dunn story for us? Cliff is one of our most faithful listeners.
I don't have a Josh Dunn story. I really don't.
All right. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, what do you suggest?
Email.
ohubert@bellsouth.net.
Okay. Don't text me, whatever you do. I don't text.
Have you tried
For year,
texting?
for many, no, I haven't. I don't want to text. For years, I didn't even have a cell phone. I do have one now, but it's only for emergency use. It stays in my car. I don't like having to report to a telephone. I mean, as soon as somebody starts using one, they're almost immediately addicted to it. And, that's just, I have an answering machine on my home phone, and people want to leave me a message, they can. And I have email. I carry my tablet with me to all the tournaments, so they can always get me by email. But no, I'm not a smartphone, a so-called
It might
smartphone
be smart that you don't have the
user.
phone. I mean, you're
Well,
living in a different reality than me because I'm on
well,
that
I'm,
damn
I'm
thing all the
not.
time.
I'm not technologically challenged. I have a computer, and I do, email, and I do all my banking,
Yeah,
and watch bridge, BBO and bridge winners. So I mean, I don't have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem using a cell phone. Like I say, I don't feel that it's necessary for somebody to be able to get in touch with me 24 hours a day.
right.
And I don't like to screen my calls. I think it's rude. If my telephone rings, I answer
Yeah,
it.
I hear you.
Uh,
I hear you. Old school.
I guess so. Although I don't think of myself as old school. I mean, maybe I have some old school habits. I don't feel like I'm an old school person at
Mm.
all.
Well, unless you've got something more to say, I think I'm ready to call this a wrap.
Well, nothing I can think of. I hope I gave you something that you can use.
For sure. I've enjoyed it. I do have one more question. Are you doing anything with the University of Georgia bridge team?
No.
No.
I see the Georgia Tech bridge team more than I see the Georgia. I guess there's a Georgia team, but
I think they've had some
nobody's ever.
matches with Tech
Have they?
in the recent. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I've seen
nobody's
something
ever
about that.
contacted me from either one. Sometimes the Tech students come down to the club. We're playing our sectional, so I know some of them, and
Hmm.
I forgive them for being from Georgia Tech. So,
Have you enjoyed the recent success of the University of Georgia football team?
oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And the Atlanta Braves.
Mm.
So we'll see how it goes this year.
I'm originally from Philadelphia, so I'm a Phillies fan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
From the city that booed Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's yeah. We've had a good year, kind of. Lost in the Super Bowl and lost in the World Series. So I'm also a UVA grad, and our basketball team we just got blown out, but well, not blown out, but beaten handily by Boston College last night. We got a good team, but winning some close games that weren't supposed to be close, and we've become spoiled here at UVA with our basketball success.
I was just going to say Georgia only had one successful basketball team, and that was many years ago in the Dominique Wilkins era.
Mm.
He still does commentary on the Atlanta Hawks games.
Mm.
So he's the human highlight film, they call him.
Well, what's his name? Anthony Edwards played there only for 1 year, but he's a pretty good player in the NBA now.
Yeah, I haven't seen him play. I knew that he was uh, thought to be the top draft. I never heard of it if he actually was, but yeah.
He,
But I don't really watch much college basketball,
mm.
so.
Yeah, he was an all-star replacement. One of the people that was originally selected got hurt, so he was a replacement all-star this year, and he was the number one pick in the NBA draft when he came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right, Olin, I really appreciate it. We'll probably publish in the next week or two, and I'll let you know when we do that. I'll share that with you. And thanks for your time. I look forward to seeing you in New Orleans.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking me, as long as I don't come off looking like too big a fool.
I don't think that's I don't think that's going to be the case. Me, on the other hand.
Yeah, right. It's your job to make me sound smart.
No, it is. It's it's a challenging medium. It's funny.
Sure.
It's funny. It's easier said than done, but I enjoy the challenge of it.
I never told you about my year off from bridge, where I was a journalist on a small town newspaper.
All right.
Well, it was for basically no money. I went back to school in, I think, '85, and then I worked for a year on a small town paper in Middle Georgia. And okay, it was a twice a week paper, and in addition to my, covering county government, sheriff's office, things like that, in the weekend edition, I was the woods and water editor. In other words, I wrote about fishing and hunting, even though I didn't do any fishing and hunting of myself. But that was that always gets a lot of laughs. I would have to call these guys at the lakes on Friday so I could do the lake report, and they'd say, well, the crappie are biting on green and yellow jigs and 10 feet of water off the bridges and stony points, and for that lake, that would be my lake. And then I'd go out and interview and take a picture of anybody who had caught a big fish or shot. So, although there was an amazing variety of different types of hunting. But so that was my year away from bridge. But then that's when I, started getting regular work as a director, and then I moved back to Atlanta and got into that full time.
What did you go back to school for?
I was thinking about, I wasn't making any money at bridge. I wasn't getting any sessions, very few sessions direct. So I decided to go into journalism and see if I could make a living, because it takes quite a while to really move up to anything. And looking for a job is perhaps my least favorite thing in all the world, applying for a job.
So you were studying journalism in your graduate school?
Well, it wasn't graduate school.
Oh, you just went back to regular. Okay.
Yeah. I told you I graduated 15 years later when I was playing, than when I was in school the first time.
Right.
I guess it was more than 15 years. But
it kind of flew over my head originally when you said that you were doing the wildlife reporting. Once you spelled it out, I got it.
Yeah, but as I said, I wasn't in the group of people who were cutting out and going to class when I was in school the first time.
Right. I wish that I'd had a bridge. I mean, I was in a fraternity at UVA, and so that was my primary focus.
Well, fraternity, forget about fraternity bridge. You won't find a half decent bridge player in a fraternity game. In fact, if we could find those guys in those days, that was, like the, in the cartoons where your eyes become a cash register, that was what it was like playing bridge against fraternity boys.
What stakes did y'all play in rubber bridge at UGA?
I think about a half a cent a point, probably. If we had found somebody, like that would play for a penny.
They could probably afford it.
Yeah.
When's the last time you played rubber?
Boy, I don't remember now. We had a guy who lived here, an old guy with a lot of money. He was a terrible bridge player, but he liked to play for a nickel a point. And for a while, he had me on retainer and playing with him. I think I made more money, though, after I quit playing with him and started playing against him. He was the type, if you didn't think you could double him, just bid one more time, because he would bid one more time until you thought you could double
him. So when he had you on retainer, what did that mean? He was paying you to play with him, but you weren't exposed to the losses?
No. Well, I mean, retainer included tournaments too, but I mean, he had a no. He would play if we lost. He would pay the losses. If we won, I would get a quarter of the winnings. And it was if it was just a few points, he would give it all to me. I could give you, I can give you a hand.
Okay.
I won't. The play gets pretty complicated,
Okay.
but just the mathematics of it. It was the last hand of the day, and we were down a vulnerable game swing.
Yeah.
And my hand was too small. Ace, Jack, 7, King third, and a singleton. God, it must be more than that. Seems like it must be more than that. I guess that's it. And he opened a no trump.
Okay.
Now, I could have just taken my 4 hearts and broken even for the day.
Yeah.
But one player actually complimented my ethics that I asked for aces before I bid 6 hearts. And the opponents got off to a bad lead. They led the ace of diamonds, setting up my king, and then my right-hand opponent fell for really what was a pseudo trump squeeze. Like I say, it gets a little complicated.
Yeah.
I basically had to blank. The dummy had the ace king third of spades. I had to blank the ace king of spades nonchalantly,
Right.
of course, to not reveal that I now had no spade threat. So now the dummy had ace jack fourth of clubs, obviously my singleton. They came down to king queen third of clubs. So I was able to play ace of clubs and rough a club, go back to the spade, rough another club, setting up my 12th trick, and still have the spade entry to get back and score the slam with my jack of clubs. So basically, we won by a vulnerable game swing, and I got to keep the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that was
Why did he compliment your ethics?
no, some player did. Well, because they thought they understood the mathematics of the situation. I mean, it was a little cynical, I guess. That in other words, this player just thought, well, why don't you just bid 6 hearts? You know, it was either win or break even. You know, I had nothing to lose, so I ended up with some money. In other words, if I'd have just made 4 hearts, we'd have broken even.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm missing the ethics compliment. Like, will you explain that to me?
Well, that I didn't just bid 6 hearts. Not. This is not the player at the game in the game.
Yeah.
Somebody else.
But why is it ethical? Why is it ethical?
That I gave the hand to. Oh, I don't know that. Well, that I didn't just. I don't know that.
Oh, because
that I at least checked to see that we weren't off too.
Right.
Because
you were kind of free rolling the hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Got it. All right.
Yeah. No, I had nothing like I didn't even have a slam try, a real slam.
Right.
But I had a 7-card suit.
Did you play 4 hearts by you was to play over his 1-no? Or did you play Texas?
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember at the time. Right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we played it was to play.
It seems like that might have been a good agreement for this partnership.
Well, I certainly wasn't. Well, I wasn't gonna transfer anyway. I wasn't gonna transfer and then try for slam. I don't think he could have made it on the pseudo Trump squeeze.
All right, Olin. Thank you very much. I think this is a perfect ending, and I'll be in touch when we got this ready to go.
Okay, thank you, John.
All right, thank you. Bye.